Cyberpunk 2077 has molded itself into an absolutely incredible game 5 years on, and it's hard to deny it. Sure, it's lost a lot of people early on, with early YouTube videos absolutely slamming it for its stability, bugs, gameplay and more, and some of it makes a lot of sense. But as of now, and maybe I'm just biased, but it's absolutely one of the best games out there, and technology-wise has pushed the boundaries in terms of things like path tracing, lighting and immersive world design. It's no secret that Cyberpunk 2, also codenamed Orion, is in development and will be set in Night City and another one as well, and will probably be utilizing the Unreal 5 engine, which means so many more opportunities will come about for this game, and big expectations will be had for it once again, especially as Witcher 4 will be out before it, and that should show us the type of world design and narrative style they're going down to some extent. So in today's episode, I thought I would discuss some of the things I'd absolutely love to see in Cyberpunk 2, reflecting back on previous things that didn't work well for me in the game and what they could enhance in the future. Obviously, I won't be doing a section on the game being bug-free because that just goes without saying, and of course I'm not a game designer or a developer, so some might be ridiculous and way too much, but this is my ultimate list of things I'd love to see anyway. So join me as I dive into what I want from Cyberpunk 2, codenamed Orion. The first thing that stood out to me when I first booted up Cyberpunk back in 2020 when it launched was it had life paths, and they were 3 unique things for the world: Corpo, Nomad and Street Kid. 3 life paths that told you a lot about how the world of Cyberpunk worked. And unfortunately, apart from some different conversations during missions, it didn't really add much to the overall game. The expansion of Phantom Liberty allowed us to open up a few more options, but again, it wasn't really a game changer and really made it not that much of a choice. The only thing cool about it was the brief, unique mission right at the beginning, which arguably the Nomad one is the best one out there, as it actually involves some gunplay and driving as well. The thing that made the TTRPG of Cyberpunk Red and Prior so unique for me was that you each had a unique role for the game. You can play as a rocker who can have a ton of confidence and can use their musical abilities in a situation. You had netrunners who were extremely proficient in hacking their way through things, warriors, and then of course there's things like the Corpos, Nomads and Street Kids. On top of that, there was a really cool feature in the TTRPG that allowed you to do anything you wanted as long as it was cool. Obviously this isn't possible in a game like Cyberpunk. I mean, it might be. Baldur's Gate 3 certainly showed off that, but that's an insane thing to ask for. And it's also why not many games have actually done it. But I do think Baldur's Gate does a good job in showing off class-based gameplay, and I think it certainly is something that can be worked into Cyberpunk. I mean, V, for example, starts as pretty much a blank slate, and whilst you can hyper-focus them on being either good at melee, heavily Cyberware dependent, or proficient in weapons, it never felt connected to who they were in their life path. I feel like in Cyberpunk 2 there should be benefits to the life path you choose, and they should really matter. Nomads are incredible techies most of the time. They are great at driving, as that is their culture, and can make extremely unique weapons and tools to use in situations. Why not make that their unique ability if they are to be chosen? That you can craft more unique mods and weapons and drive vehicles with increased proficiency. Why not as a Corpo give a boost to confidence and speech checks so that you can talk and bribe people in a situation? Not all Corpos can be incredible mercs. They could have trained their whole lives into being negotiators or salespeople. So why not add that as a character trait? You can even have it that if you could choose a rocker life path, have it that you have a major influence on people you meet. Maybe even giving you fans that can be companions on quests or something like that. Or they can be a rodeo and carry your weapons with you as you go. Obviously there's so many things I could think of that could fit with a character design, but I just really want those life paths to actually mean something. A lot of us like playing around with character builds anyway, choosing our cyberware to fit the playstyle we want to focus on, so why can't the life path be part of that character build? It fits with the way the world works, it's adding to the gameplay, also giving it some more lore benefits, and it just adds more to the fun factor in my opinion, other than just being able to relate with Pan Am a bit more, or say something like, I've never lived in a single place as a nomad and then never really going back to it ever again. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about 2077, and I really hope they do life paths again, and with it, add some more gameplay bonuses to it instead of a very brief bit of story. And I also hope to God they do not remove it completely, because I want Cyberpunk to be that RPG it first said it was going to be, and don't want it to just be an assigned role. That's what I play The Witcher for. I want Cyberpunk to follow down the route that the TTRPG set up all of those years ago. During the first mission with Jackie, it somewhat sets up the brutality of what Night City is all about, as well as the roles they have in the running of it. They are mercs who dive into horrific situations, ones the NCPD do not either want to do or are not funded enough to do either. But during it, we witness the two corporations and public services of Trauma Team and MaxTac. And they are both displayed to the player as being something that will play a major role later in the game, especially MaxTac, who, if they get summoned, you are in deep trouble, and to some extent they do feature as this mechanic in the game, and it is cool when you actually see them, but it just doesn't go far enough. This was certainly helped in Phantom Liberty as they turned into mini boss battles in missions and in the world as well, and there was a nice mission featuring them for about 2 seconds before they just tell you to go away. But that quest did raise an interesting lore question, which was, are they really to be trusted, or are they just ex-cyber psychos themselves who are being allowed to fulfill their bloodlust by killing other bad guys like some weird futuristic Marvel Suicide Squad? Their importance in the world felt so small, and it was a real shame, especially when it came to Trauma Team, who, correct me if I'm wrong, serve absolutely no purpose in the game whatsoever past the first mission. Sure, you can see them on the streets, but V never interacts with them ever. They are just constantly in the background, and to me, that's incredibly disappointing. In Orion, I really hope they utilize these two factions a bit more. MaxTac, I feel, could be a really interesting narrative point, as well as being there for if you do decide to shoot up the place. I mean, V hunting down the cyber psychos is a fun bit of gameplay because they are all unique in their designs and skills, but maybe they could include some situations where MaxTac are on the scene as well. I always found it odd that so many cyber psychos were around the city, but apparently no MaxTac showed up anywhere. Of course, that would ruin some of the gameplay, but maybe in some situations it could be a miscommunication or something about the person and that they aren't actually a cyber psycho and you have to fend off from MaxTac or beat MaxTac to the person to save them from essentially being completely wiped out by these absolute terrifying beasts. I don't know. I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about a lot of the time, but I just really want to see more MaxTac in the game. And Phantom Liberty did a great job at reintroducing them and brought about that threat, especially in the main mission. I want more of that because they are amazing in design, and it's a shame to barely see them, especially as when in the car with Jackie, felt like you were going to be seeing them far more often in the world. For Trauma Team, however, I felt like this was a missed opportunity for side missions and for the general trekking around Night City. Trauma Team are said to be combat medics and are not afraid to get into gunfights. With that said, I'm pretty surprised there were never any defend missions where you help out members of the Trauma Team as they try and fend off gangs trying to take out a target or something like that. They appear on the streets and they can fight you if you get too close, but again, there was no missions involving them. And it's a shame because I want to know more about how they work as an organization, and it would be interesting to just have a storyline around them. They could also do a GTA style respawn system with Trauma Team where they can just be used as a way to get you back on the streets after being killed by random events or taking out the police. In the lore, Trauma Team does not care about how you were downed. If you are a paying customer to them, regardless of how you were taken out, they will arrive on the streets to take you back and revive you. I'm just super surprised this wasn't used as a way of getting V back into the action. Surely you could have it where you lose some of your eddies as a result of it, but it would save you going back to a previous save, because I felt like that put me off ever creating carnage in Night City. It did get to a point where you would be killed by MaxTac, and instead of keeping that XP from surviving that long, you just go back to before it all started, which sometimes could be something like 10 minutes or so. And maybe that's just a me problem, but I really felt like Trauma Team could have been used in gameplay situations in this massive open world game, similar to how GTA have done it before. That, and why not more Trauma Team just in a narrative sense as well? I think my ultimate takeaway is, why were they shown off in the first mission if they are not utilized much in the overall game? The scavs being shown makes sense as they appear a lot more in the game, but Trauma Team just disappear after this, and MaxTac barely show up, and I think that's just a big shame, honestly. So going forward, please just give us more Trauma Team and MaxTac. If not for the gameplay, at least give us some stories or opportunities to work alongside them. Now don't get me wrong here, I think all of the gangs in Cyberpunk 2077 are really cool. They have unique designs, have their own specific areas, their own cyber psychos and weapons. However, I would love it if they just went that little bit further with them. The factions in Cyberpunk 2077 are shown off to just be general thugs who want to get money and power whatever way possible, be that capturing a hostage, killing and interrogating people, and just standing there menacingly. But based on the lore of all of the gangs, they all have things that make them stand out as really unique. We don't really see that much in 2077, however, apart from their overall looks. The Maelstrom are meant to be far more than just tech-obsessed cyber psychos. They are incredibly smart and in 2045 run tons of scavenging operations within the city. The 6th Street gang are in that specific location because they were hired as its protectors and they want to be regarded as an important security force in the city. Granted, they are corruptible, they also want to prove themselves, and the animals are also incredibly obsessed with becoming animals, ones that they personally align with, be that a gorilla, cheetah, and so on. Apart from a few things like the boxing with the animals and some of the Maelstrom quests, we don't really get that much insight into who these gangs are and why they do what they do, other than the fact that we need factions to fight in the regular venturing around the city. But it's a bit frustrating that a lot of these contracts are the same regardless of what gang it is. The Tiger Claws, Maelstrom, Scavs, 6th Street, and even Militech all seem to do the same crime when you get to them. And for me personally, it's just a bit of a shame. I want more scav operations like the first mission with Jackie, where you have to break into their horrible base of operations with bodies torn apart because of what they do. Maybe follow an REO meat wagon that goes to them to show off how horrible their operations truly are. I feel like they needed to be a bit more fleshed out. These are interesting factions, but they just get remembered for being generic bad guys at times. Cool to look at and discuss, but in game, pretty bland and not really unique at all in terms of behavior or mechanics. Phantom Liberty did a great job at bringing more interest into the Voodoo Boys, who probably have one of the biggest focuses in the game thanks to their story with Alt, but after that they barely do anything in the base game. That said, I feel like it's a missed opportunity having them unjoinable or having them not give you gigs. Personally, I would have loved to have done gigs for Maelstrom to see what their big focus is. Is it technology? Is it sheer show of strength and taking over other gangs? Is it trying to unleash rogue AIs or something? If you side with the scavs, are you capturing VIPs with good hardware to grab for them? Granted, this might dip its toes into moral questions and might bring into it a karma system of your V or next character being seen as either good or evil. But like I said earlier, I'd love for Cyberpunk to go more into the RPG it was before with the TTRPG. Why not have it so you can side with a gang? This can bring about conflicts between you and other gangs. If you side with the Voodoo Boys, for example, that might mean the animals hunt you down even more often when you venture about, and suddenly venturing around Night City means you have to keep an eye on who's got you in their sights. It's just another element that brings about more immersion to the world, for me at least. You could even have rewards for siding with a faction and becoming an honoured member of them. So for example, if you side with the Valentinos and getting good with Sebastian Ibarra, he could gift you a unique golden weapon or gold piece of cyberware, or just a piece of cosmetics to help you stand out. I like the street credit system to some extent, but felt like it could go much further than it did. And it doesn't have to stop at gangs. It could be helping the NCPD, helping Trauma Team, helping MaxTac with cyber psychos, helping the nomads or corporations. Having factions to join, I think, would make this world so much more immersive and would allow for so many replays as you can change it up a bit. And you can even have people's reactions to you being a part of a specific gang. Maybe people fear you more if you are aligned with the Scavs or Maelstrom, and maybe you have more advice for quests if you align with the Corpos or the Nomads. Maybe this is a ridiculously big task and thing to ask for, but I just think if gangs and factions can be joined, or at least have more say in the world, that'll make Night City, or whatever city that we're going to, so much more immersive and will change up gameplay a lot, giving the player a lot more options. A lot of the cyberware added from patch 2.0 and onwards was brilliant, but I still feel like it didn't go far enough and really needs more for that full cyberware experience. It's hard to look at every single bit of cyberware in the universe and state specifically what I would like to see, but personally I would love for it to have more of an impact in your aesthetics as well. Sure, some change up how you look. For example, having any form of cyberware on your arms can change up your look, and gorilla arms give you a white or black fist, but I just felt like there should be more out there. We see so many cool designs in the NPCs with flamethrowers on arms, missing mouths, multiple eyes. There's so many horrible and cool looks out there, but we can't seem to get any of them. I would love to install a piece of cyberware that increases hearing, and maybe that replaces your whole ear with a unique piece of cyberware in the side of your character's face. Or maybe you can have active night vision that you can apply at night or in dark places that turns your whole front of your face into a Sam Fisher type deal. Maybe increased zoom adds more eyes to your character, or maybe you can replace your hair with a massive rocket launcher. Okay, maybe that last one is ridiculous, but in a world where technology has gone completely insane making tools for every situation, I feel like it limits it a bit with what you can place on your person, and it doesn't really add to your character's image. I get the wardrobe is the thing that makes you look the way you look, but why not make it more immersive and tie it in with the cyberware you utilize? There is a mod online that you can get called Black Chrome, and that adds things like heavy duty metal legs, which means you can never get knocked down by enemies or cars, but it massively hinders your speed. But those are the types of cyberware I like to see. Maybe you can have a system that allows you to add as much as possible, but if you want too much, it comes with major side effects, such as it can malfunction if you have too many pieces on your persons, rendering you without a scanner for a bit, or hindering movement speed, or overriding guns so they fire endlessly, or something like that. A negative trait system that something like the Outer Worlds does. Or maybe it can hinder you with some skill tree perks like speech, for example. Maybe if you are too chromed up, people are too scared of you to become friendly, and maybe you have to be more assertive to get answers out of people instead of bartering with them. Cyberware, once again for me, shouldn't only just be a combat thing. I feel like it can add so much more to the way the world works. It should influence interactions, it should affect the way you look, and on top of that, why not have it where it can have more of an influence on movement, where you could have some cyberware that allows you to swing through the city, like Lucy has in Edge Runners, for example. Or maybe summon a drone to fight by your side or scan areas for you, like in Cyberpunk Red's Black Dog story with Trace Santiago. The Santa Vista is a great manipulator of the battlefield, slowing down time completely, but I'd absolutely love to see more that make you feel like you are a literal weapon with superhero abilities, or someone that has so much cyberware that they know how to predict people's thoughts and can outspeech them, convincing them to do things that they didn't want to do. On top of that, maybe you can eventually become an FBC, a full body conversion, if you go down a specific path with your character, making you incredibly efficient in combat but terrifying to encounter in any other situation. There's so many possibilities with cyberware, and CD Projekt Red went down the right route in changing it up a bit for 2.0, and some extra mods have made cyberware very fun to play around with, but I still feel like it can play a bigger part in the game and the immersion of it all. Speaking of immersion, I think as much as I love Night City, it needs just a bit more to stand out. The very first E3 trailer made it seem like Night City was such a rich, smart, and ever-growing city with NPCs thinking for themselves and doing their own paths and activities. With the release, and even after the many updates, I still feel like there is a lot to be said about how the city works. For example, every time I gather footage on the streets, not much is really going on. Gangs are in their spots waiting for you to get involved, NPCs are bumping into each other, but nothing much else happens. Occasionally you'll get a gang warfare, which is cool to witness, but if it doesn't happen, traffic goes around in circles, the skybox is filled with flying AVs that are on the same path over and over again, and it just seems too overly scripted. The thing I love about Phantom Liberty and Dogtown was that it had the drops that you could locate and fight for. It encouraged scouting out areas and traversal to try and find it, and then you could get into gunfights with the ones protecting it. It felt unscripted to to some extent. You didn't know where the next one would fall and what would be going on there, and sometimes it had the gangs fighting for ownership of it. Like I said earlier, this would probably be helped by Trauma Team and MaxTac getting involved more. You could have it where they're swooping in randomly to get involved in gunfights, or maybe there's a car crash that happens and Trauma Team are on the case immediately, forcing a blockade of the road. I mean, comparing it to GTA once again, if you cause a massive crash or shoot up a place and drive off, you will see ambulances and police cars drive to the scene. It's just that little piece of added immersion that makes those worlds feel so alive. I think if you add more importance to the factions of MaxTac and Trauma Team and even the NCPD, as well as things like gang wars due to recent events that are of your making, Night City or whatever city we are going to next can transform into something the more and more you play. You can help influence the role of Maelstrom, for example, in the city. You could see their patrols more throughout the area as they start fights with some of the Tiger Claws in their specific parts. Or if you are a law-abiding citizen and side with the NCPD, this could help them take back control, and maybe if a gang fight kicks off, the police can be on it a lot faster, with even MaxTac getting involved as well. But not only that, I just wish there was more NPC flexibility where you genuinely feel like they are going about their day-to-day lives with activities to do. Granted, it is nice to see tons of NPCs in a location as it makes the world feel full and busy, but I'd rather have them toned down more and have interactions with one another or doing activities that felt fitting to the universe. The Witcher 4 tech demo went on to show NPC interactions when they went on to see Ciri, scoffing at them and some reacting to her walking into them. I want that type of interaction in Orion because it makes for such a more interesting world, and I'll bring it up again. Let's get NPCs taking offense to your actions. If you drive into someone like you do in GTA, let's have them get out and try and fight you. Or let's have some more car chases on the streets. Night City is meant to be this insane, lawless place at times that has lost complete control, but sometimes when playing that, it's just hard to see it, especially in somewhere like Pacifica, which apart from a few gun battles, it doesn't really do much at times. Just a few more random events on the streets is all I'd love to see in this respect, because it would just make venturing to each area exciting, because you never know what you might witness next. I'll finish off with, of course, the most important thing to anything that labels itself as a cyberpunk story, and that is, of course, its main story and themes. I'll start by saying that for me, Phantom Liberty is one of the best experiences I had in this game and just gaming in general. All of the factions and all of the characters were so well written and interesting, and there was always a sense of jeopardy and many twists happening that you just never expected. The Songbird storyline is absolutely incredible, and whilst I found that final mission in Sinosure horrible because it freaked me out so much, the way it delivered its storyline was perfect, and it was heartbreaking. It told the perfect cyberpunk story in my opinion, looking at how far people would go to make a life for themselves, selling their soul away to a corrupt organization so they could just boost their power, and in the end, all of that led to this one individual losing everything that made them human and just turned them into a tool for the system. It covered everything that this genre could, and I couldn't have asked for more. The main story with V's mental decline and dealing with death was also brilliant, and this constant dialogue with this rebel in your head was such a brilliant idea, especially as it brought back so much from the original lore and the stories from Mike Pondsmith's head. The problem with it was that it was just so incredibly short. It's a great little narrative, but if you were to just follow it on its own, it's just over before you know it and leaves you wanting just that little bit more. The side character stories are all incredible though, and that's what makes up the main story. Even with the more boring characters such as River, that's pretty interesting. And I actually stand by the fact that that's one of my favorite storylines within it because it's terrifying and creepy, and that image of the cow will stick with me forever for the wrong reasons. Ultimately, I just want a longer version of this type of story because it ticks all of the boxes of the genre. Who am I to criticize its writing and characters? I can't. It was always the strongest point of the game when it launched, and I do think that most people can agree that whilst it was a technical mess at the beginning, the story was worth it in the end. I would love to see storylines fleshed out a little bit more, however. For example, the Perez quest. Although it was a side quest, it raised a major question about what was going on in the world, and they've never really touched on it again. and it was incredibly disappointing because I wanted to know more about this organization trying to take over his brain. I'm all for mystery and all for theory making, even though I'm bad at it, but if these themes are to be brought into a story, please make sure there are actual leads to follow instead of just leaving it to one side and making people guess to what it could actually mean and never give any solution. That said, I wouldn't want this to be a major theme of the game. I don't want to see a game fully dedicated to exploring what rogue AIs are or who Mr. Blue Eyes is. That for me isn't what makes an interesting Cyberpunk game or story. If Half-Life turned into Hunt Down the G-Man, I almost said something completely different then, that would have been very awkward. But if that was the main mission, hunting down the G-Man and finding out who he is and then having a boss battle with him, I think that would just be a pretty poor narrative. The Cyberpunk genre has always been about the world, about how it affects humanity, the effects technology has on the human soul. The Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty captured that perfectly. I want more of that and more of the mystery about things like rogue AIs on the side. Maybe adding in some more mystery side quests that you could have to stumble upon. Similar in style to how FF06B5 was like. It gives you some more lore insights into the net or characters from the TTRPG. I don't know, I just want more of the same from Orion's story. I want to see more of that world building, mystery behind the net and the AI, whilst also having a main focus on you as the character and how they react to the world around them. The original creators said to me in an interview once what the world of Cyberpunk is all about to them, and this is what I interpreted them as meaning. The game is about your journey, it's about the story you want to tell. The focus isn't on one specific man or woman. The legends are there to inspire to some extent, but it is about your journey and how you deal with how the world is now in this specific time. Even with the Songbird's story, you could argue it is all about them, but her story is raising a question about you as a character, you as a person. One person can be saved here. Are you willing to sacrifice someone back into the system to save yourself? Or are you able to accept your mortality and give someone who has suffered massively by the hands of the NUSA or any corporation to have a life of their own and to make amends for everything they have done before? It also raises the question, is Songbird good? Or is she bad? Or is it more complex than just a black and white answer? These are the questions I want to be raising at the end of Orion, and if I get to the end and everything is summed up and there's one ending and that's it, your character is fine, I would be majorly disappointed. I want to get to the end of the playthrough and question what the good ending is, because to this day I still don't know what I'd want as the main ending of Cyberpunk. The closest one I can think of is the Star ending, where V is with their family and there is a chance at a new life. But even then, it's a tragic ending where Saul is sacrificed in the hope that V is saved. And you also have the dilemma of the fact that Johnny has gone and that's it. He's never coming back. You said no to him and you'll never get to say a real goodbye to him ever again. Mortality, technology, existentialism, humanity. These are the themes 2077 covered incredibly well, and that is what I want to see again in Orion, in something new and refreshing, but yet somewhat familiar and comforting as well. But those are just the things that I've put on my wish list anyway. Are there any things you'd like to see? What did you think of my list? Let me know in the comments below. But that's all I've got for now. This has been What I Want from Cyberpunk 2, codenamed Orion. I'd like to say a big thank you for watching this video once again, and do let me know in the comments below what you thought of it and if there's any other future videos that you'd like to see on this channel. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to my patrons, including my small fishes, my big fishes, This Mind of Mine and Anthony Bonfiglio, my YouTube channel Wise Ones, Sith Lord 906, Videogamer 75, Kosh 1516, Planet Nanontarium and V3XXE, my Shark Dan F and my Megalodon Sinus and Hazy Thoughts. But that is all for now. Thank you very much for watching this video once again, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.